Welcome back to lovely South Beach. You missed the sunset this morning and you're bummed about it.
Went for a bike ride, was hoping to see some sunset, all I saw was clouds. Sunrise.
Rise. You keep saying that.
You had your camera ready and got nothing. Saw you on a bike. It was fairly noticeable that you were on a bike.
Yeah.
They don't make bikes for your size.
A little awkward, but we had a fun time.
Seeing you get onto the bike and maneuver it down was pretty special.
We should really just put that footage in here if we have it.
Did you get some video?
No.
We're going to do a little Chiefs offense, 49ers defense discussion. We did Niners offense yesterday. And we started with the quarterback yesterday, but let's start with Andy Reid today, because you wrote a really good piece about Andy Reid and whether he's the best coach in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And you got a little bit of blowback. There's some people that didn't like your opinion on it. So get us started here. Andy Reid, how good is he and why?
I mean, Andy Reid just gets more than the sum of the parts all the time, right? When he, early on in his career with Donovan McNabb, they had wide receivers like James Thrash, Todd Pinkston, all those guys, right? And we overlooked that. They made NFC Championship games 4 years in a row. Fast forward to Kansas City, right? He takes over a team that's 2-14. They get Alex Smith of all people, and they have a winning season. They go over their Vegas total every single year since he's been the head coach. Now we're just finally noticing, because he's got the bazooka there instead of taking the knife to a gunfight in Patrick Mahomes. And it's tough because we don't want to discount anything Mahomes has done, but you look at sort of like the metrics Mahomes brought into the NFL versus what he's producing now, and to me it's clear it's Andy Reid.
System quarterback is what you're saying.
I mean,
that's what I took.
They're all system quarterbacks.
No.
Always have to balance that, right? Every time you say Andy Reid's a great play caller, they do a great job of scheming open receivers, and Patrick Mahomes is also awesome. But yeah, Reid does have a history of the same thing we said about Shanahan yesterday morning, of just elevating offenses, right, and getting the most out of them in particular. So that's what makes this entire matchup so intriguing.
What I think is so interesting about this Chiefs offense, though, is that we talked about the 49ers offense and the uniqueness of motion and run game and all this stuff. The Chiefs don't run the ball. It's almost like beautiful to watch. They throw the ball more than any other team in the NFL. They also use play action at the highest rate in the NFL out of the total sum of their plays. And it's really indicative of where we are in the NFL right now, that they can still be successful.
But the run game sets up play action.
Right, exactly. Damian Williams walking onto the field sets up the play action.
Yeah, it's true. They are really one of those teams. Baltimore was the analytics darling this year, but Kansas City are kind of right there as well, just in slightly different ways. More from a schematics, X's and O's point of view, this idea that you don't have to run the ball endlessly to set up an occasional play action deep shot. Play action works. The running game is more. It's more like a Mike Leach philosophy of you run the ball when they give you a clear, easy run. Otherwise, you're better off passing the ball.
Well, I mean, their whole offense is built the way we build an offense.
Right.
Obviously, the quarterback being the high variance guy, but we're seeing the very top of his variance there. But also 2 good tackles, right? Left tackle actually not as highly paid as the right tackle, or as good. And then you look at left guard, center, right guard, all guys that were drafted or signed off the street or drafted below round 6. And they still are effective, right? And then you look at running back. It's just a guy, Damian Williams, just off, basically a late offseason contract last year. Now he's a starting running back in the Super Bowl. But then they do have, tight end that can stretch the field, wide receivers that can stretch the field. So it is really an offense, personnel-wise, play calling-wise, that we would pick.
Let's go to Mahomes now. We've seen Kansas City be successful without Patrick Mahomes. We have not seen them be dominant, and that's exactly what they've been. What is it that Patrick Mahomes does? I mean, there's so many things, but you had to pick one that's just like the most impressive, the thing that's maybe the most valuable in your mind.
So I kept saying all of last year, he's got the highlight reel, he makes those spectacular plays outside the pocket, but the fact that he wasn't missing throws last year, and it was part of the Mahomes article that was written this year, I mean, that was just not expected, right? He just took what was given inside the pocket. Earlier this year, he missed a bunch, he was injured, whatever it may have been, but down the stretch here, he's just not missing again. So while the highlight reel is still the same and spectacular, he's taken what's there, and that's what makes him so dangerous. You just can't defend that.
He doesn't have even outlier numbers of positively graded throws. He just doesn't hurt you. He literally under 5% a negatively graded throw rate. 5% of plays in the playoffs, we would say, hey, that was a bad throw, right? Or that was a bad play. That's like a third of what we see normally in the NFL. He just doesn't hurt you. He doesn't have bad plays generally. He doesn't have bad games generally. And then, of course, you have the ability to make the big play on top of that. That's what's lethal about it. It's, some of these quarterbacks, they don't have a high ceiling along with their high floor, or they have they're Jameis, they have a high ceiling and the lowest floor. Right. But Mahomes has, Mahomes is the perfect world there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that makes him special are the crazy plays that basically only he makes and nobody else can manufacture. The stuff that's off the cuff, that doesn't make any sense from a football point of view. That's what makes him special. But what makes him like an MVP caliber, best quarterback in the league, is all the other stuff. It's the fact that he took all those negatives, moved them up, and now, if anything, they're positive. So his baseline is basically as high as anybody else in the NFL right now. Then you add on top the special stuff that only he can do from an instinctive point of view, and that's what makes him basically unstoppable.
That's what we did on the site this week. We said at PFF.com, we said, here are the strengths and weaknesses that we said before the draft. And all of those weaknesses were like not patient in the pocket, vacates clean pockets, needs to take what's there. And all of those things have become something he's pretty good at. So that's the credit too.
And the credit to Reid, right?
Yes.
Because in Texas Tech, they were behind all the time. He had to make those plays, and it prepared him for now, right? Where you look at Andy Reid in terms of like starting field position for opposition is second lowest in the NFL this year. All of his quarterbacks don't turn the ball over. His receivers are open at a rate that's far above league average, and so you build an environment where a lot of those negatives can go away, and what you have is Patrick Mahomes.
What's interesting to me about Mahomes is how he gives himself opportunities to make the crazy play. To me, that's what makes him special. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers in his prime, Russell Wilson, they get outside the pocket and they make great plays. But they do so in a way that also has some negatives. They take a lot of sacks. Patrick Mahomes doesn't.
Yeah.
He will take hits, he will take hurries, he'll incur them on himself. He does not take sacks. He is always able to get rid of the ball, to find a receiver. Now, it's a credit to the environment that's been built, but no one else has been able to do this. It's amazing to me that a guy that is such a good creative quarterback can do that while having a sack rate in the top 3, right? He's getting sacked like the way Drew Brees gets sacked, but Drew Brees isn't getting out of the pocket and making ridiculous plays. The one question I have, though, is the Niners defense has been so good at limiting the deep shot. Right? That is what they have done. They've only allowed 10 completions all season, 20-plus yards downfield. By far the best in the league. So do the Chiefs say, okay, we're going to take advantage of the fact that Mahomes can beat you at every other level, or do they say, no, our strength is still going down the field and we keep doing it?
I think they follow what's happened the first couple of weeks where Mahomes played that patient game. If you remember, when you beat those Seattle Seahawks cover 3 type of teams that, the 49ers will run more often than not, the flats are open, you put the ball into, the hands of speedy receivers in the flats, underneath, and then up the seams. And, like Brady in the Super Bowl against the Seahawks a couple of years ago, it was a lot of that. And if Mahomes, if they could be patient and just take what's given there, and then every now and again he'll get outside the pocket. And that's where I think the 49ers pass rush is really important, just playing that, playing contained, having those athletes. Remember Russell Wilson trying to scramble out a couple times this year, and Nick Bosa's just tracking him down. It looks like Russell Wilson lost a step. They have the athletes there to maybe limit some of those outside the pocket plays, contain him, and make things a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, to your point, though, they just have to be patient. And the cool thing about the Andy Reid offense is there's explosive plays in there, but there's also plays that are going to be positive plays that don't take a lot of risk, right? The jet sweeps to Tyreek Hill. McCole Hardman's also been in that mix. They throw to their backs pretty well. Damian Williams, as much as we give him flack for not being a good runner, they throw the ball to him and he's pretty effective in those spaces.
Screen game's awesome.
Exactly. Or just even traditional running back passes are really good for that offense. And that's how you can sort of get by if you're not relying on the explosive play all the time. And then of course, after the Niners sort of cheat up to as they're frustrated with all the underneath successful plays, that's where you hit them over the top, and they have the speed to do that.
I think the intermediate level is where they're going to have more success in those deep shots. I think, the 49ers have started to get burned by the deep shot in the playoffs. So they're great in the regular season, burned a couple times in the playoffs. I think it's going to be a focus for them. We're going up against the fastest receiving core we've seen. Mm-hmm. We've been giving up a couple of deep balls lately. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. So they're going to be more focused on that, and they're going to give you more room up front. Plus, because of that speed, they're going to be giving you a bigger cushion anyway. I think the throws in front of that last line, the throws in front of the back 3 in that cover 3 is where all the joy is going to be had. So those sort of intermediate 15-yard comebacks down the sideline.
And that's something that Tyreek Hill, he used to be just a deep guy, right?
Right.
And now he's such a more multifaceted receiver that allows them to have more success than intermediate range because your best playmaker can get open there. And then of course you've got Travis Kelce, you have Mecole Hardman, you have your boy Sammy Watkins, who look, he's not due for another 12 months to
His
have
next
a great
big game will be with another team, but yeah.
What does that matchup look like so you're Andy Reid, you're saying, okay, I know I've got Richard Sherman on one side of the field. What does that do for the rest? Are you putting Tyreek Hill out there and saying, okay, let's see what happens here? Are you moving Tyreek Hill to the other side? Are you trying to put Travis Kelce in the slot, focus on him? What are you doing?
Andy Reid's smart, so he knows that coverage is unstable week to week, right? So you look at the Niners.
Have you told him this? You sent him a note.
I think that's in his head.
Listen, Andy.
So you look at you look at Witherspoon, and like when he gave up a touchdown immediately to Stephon Diggs in the divisional round, they went with Emmanuel Mosley, and Mosley has played pretty well this season. But there's probably there's a lot to that. There's schedule differential. There's just the instability. There's a good scheme, and so I think that Reid is going to target Mosley, and the Niners are probably thinking they have that position relatively solid now that they've converged on him. I think Reid sees that as a weakness and will probably target it a lot more. What does that mean? Does that mean they put a secondary receiver on Sherman and just sort of occupy Sherman the whole game and then go after Mosley? That's a good question.
Yeah, it's really interesting because Sherman is one of those corners that has always in his career just played one side of the field, right? And it means that as an offense, you can dictate the matchup. Most of the time, it means you get your favorite receiver away from him. Like, remember the Jordy Nelson Packers. Well, if we want to target Jordy Nelson, Richard Sherman's going to be over there. He's never going to line up over there, right? But Tyreek Hill against Richard Sherman now is a tremendous matchup for the Chiefs. Sherman doesn't have the speed, even that he used to, and he was never blazing. He's really smart. He understands what it is you want to do. But in terms of pure athleticism and speed and explosion, he cannot hang with Tyreek Hill because nobody can. So for maybe the first time ever, you might actually see an offense dictate the matchup by putting their favorite target on Sherman and forcing him to honor the deep ball every single snap, back up, open up the space underneath them, and actually create some passes.
So it's going to be a big game for Mecole Hardman, the rookie out of Georgia, almost 15 yards per target, right? He's led the NFL in passer rating on his targets. So if he's matched up against those secondary corners for San Francisco 49ers, he's going to have to win.
Yeah, I mean, Tyreek's a mismatch for anybody, but it is interesting Sherman doesn't do well against those types of receivers. So I think it's a matter of what Andy really wants to do. If you are playing a cover 3 team, you got those deep crossers that everybody loves, and you can have Travis Kelce or Tyreek out of the slot running those. So you can have the most explosive options to run the one route that crushes that coverage too. So that's the other advantage that Kansas City could tap into.
There's another thing that I was watching some games from last year, and I noticed, that you've got 2 weeks to prepare. There's this kind of chess match between offensive geniuses here. And I'm really excited to see what wrinkle Andy Reid is going to throw in. A couple years ago, Tyreek Hill was in the backfield, lining up as a running back. And I would expect him to be everywhere on the field. It wouldn't shock me to see him in a place we've just never seen him before. Really try to throw the Niners off their game a little bit, get them out of their comfort zone. They have been such a better coverage team this year, so much more disciplined, not giving up nearly as many big plays, but try to get them thinking, second-guessing a little bit. Because certainly the Niners defense has more talent than the Chiefs defense, right? This is the matchup that I think everyone is really excited to see, this Chiefs offense versus the Niners defense.
The people are expecting 07 Patriots are explosive and they get stopped. The 13 Broncos, they get stopped. There's explosive offenses that looked unstoppable.
The 88 Bengals.
The 88 Bengals, right? They looked unstoppable. We watched that last night. Unstoppable during the regular season, and they go to the Super Bowl and score 10, 17, 20. Can the 49ers do that against what looks like an unstoppable offense? That's why this matchup.
What do you think?
So great.
Let's go around the room.
I think the Chiefs still find a way to score points. But if we're sitting here Monday morning and it's like, wow, the Niners held them to 20, that's, the Niners have a shot there.
Even last year, the Rams-Patriots, Rams offense gets shut down in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes playing the way he is, I don't think you're stopping this offense.
Yeah, a lot of those offenses, were built around good play callers and kind of middle of the pack quarterbacks. Although Brady and Manning the exceptions, Mahomes is just not that, right? And so I do think they score enough points. That doesn't mean they're going to win because their defense is a lot weaker on the other side. But I do think they put up points.
Yeah, I'd agree. The one thing that would give me any pause is if somehow the Niners defensive line is just on a different level in this game.
Bosa against Eric Fisher has got to scare the Chiefs.
That's what I'm saying, right? If Nick Bosa just he's in Mahomes' face on every snap, the whole game. That'd be the way that the Chiefs' offense gets stalled. But I'm not betting on it. We'll be back later tonight from Miami, South Beach, baby, having fun.
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah, the sun's out now, so
Yeah.
let's go get some.
Better get your bike.
some
Do you have your bike outside?
No, I got to work now.